Le'Veon Moss has to have a big game for Texas A&M to take down LSU at home on Saturday.
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on into Locked On Aggies. I'm your host, Andrew Stefaniak. Thanks for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Ladies and gentlemen, on the show today, we're going to talk a little bit about the quarterback matchup in this game. Should be a fun one. We're going to talk about what Coach Elko had to say in his press conference, talk about some injuries, some updates on that front. And then we're going to lead the show off talking about who needs to play well in this game for Texas A&M to take down LSU at home on Saturday. Now, the short and easy answer is everyone. Everyone needs to play well. But to get more specific, the player that really needs to show up in this game for Texas A&M is Le'Veon Moss. It's very simple. We have seen enough games so far this season to know exactly what Colin Klein wants to do on a game-in, game-out basis. He wants to run the football. Obviously, we're going to throw it a good bit too. They're going to throw it 25 times. I could see this game turning into a higher scoring game, and if that happens, I could see Connor We've throwing the football maybe a little bit more than we're predicting heading into the game. But at the end of the day, Le'Veon Moss has to be good. Last game against Mississippi State, Le'Veon Moss was fine. Obviously, he was able to find the end zone twice, but 17 carries for 65 for 65 yards. You'd rather him be a little bit more efficient. That's 3.8 yards per tote for Texas A&M star running back. You know, his yards per carry number on the season has been really, really good. And you want that to continue to be the case in this game. And you know what's funny? I looking back to last game, I think that, and this is one of the things Coach Elko talked about, and we're going to get into this. Coach Elko in his press conference yesterday, and like I said, we'll deep dive more into this in segment 2, but he talked a lot about how you love winning the game when you don't have your best stuff. And, you know, I talked about it on the show yesterday, as you every day remember, and that's the case. I mean, I would much rather be talking about this, and this went wrong against Mississippi State, and then look at the final score and see a win rather than this, and this went wrong, and we lost a heartbreaker to Mississippi State. It's much more fun talking about things that'd be better when you won the game. And that's obviously the case for Texas A&M in this football game against Mississippi State. But I thought the offensive line, and once again, when it comes to the offensive line, it's really hard for me to pinpoint a position group on this team that has been more crucial and key to this team's early season success than this offensive line. Everything that we wanted them to be, everything that we asked this offensive line to be, they've been and some. I have been so incredibly impressed with the way this offensive line has played, this many games, 7 games into the season. When we were talking about heading into this season, we were concerned about this offensive line. I mean, that's just the reality here. They didn't have their best showing against Mississippi State. But when you look at the entire body of work when it comes to the whole season, this unit has exceeded expectations by a wide margin. Very excited and proud about this group. But I have here Le'Veon Moss / run game / offensive line while talking about players that need to play well. And sometimes, obviously, I add position groups into that. But, Le'Veon Moss having a good game isn't just all on him. It is partially on him. Maybe he'll miss a hole here and there. There's things that he can control. But for the most part, top to bottom, you need the offensive line to create holes. And that is going to be even more crucial in this game. Once again, when a football team has an identity and they have something that they want to do on a game-in, game-out basis, the position groups that play a role in making that happen need to play well. You are a team that wants to run the ball. You need your offensive line to create holes, and you need your running back to identify those holes and burst through them. So that means it's going to be a tandem between Le'Veon Moss and this offensive line. But the yards per carry, 3.8. I'll tell you this, if Le'Veon Moss slash this run game, because once again, I mean, the team as a whole ran for 3.7 yards per carry. So, I mean, it wasn't like, it was Le'Veon Moss. It was the team as a whole. I mean, Amari Daniels was 3.9 yards per carry. If the team as a whole runs for 3.7 yards per carry, I don't think Texas A&M beats LSU on Saturday. That's the reality here. I think when you are good at something and you want to do something well, which this Texas A&M team is good at running the ball, and that's what they want to do, to win big games against good football teams, you got to do well in your strengths. In all honesty, you got to do well with your weaknesses as well. But that is the number one thing I'll be paying attention to in this football game is, can Texas A&M move the football on the ground? And a lot of that's going to play in a role when it comes to Le'Veon Moss and this offensive line. So those are two, a player and a position group that I am monitoring in this game. If you see 3.7, 3.8 yards per carry, I don't think the Aggies win. I think you need that to be a 4.5, 4.5 to 5 yards per carry. And you say, well, that's a lot of yards per carry, Andrew, right? Okay, well, let's take a gander here at the blowout victory over the Missouri Tigers. You ran for 6.6 yards per carry. That's my point. To beat good football teams, you got to play well. You can't. You play the way you played against Mississippi State, you're not going to beat LSU. LSU's a good football team. You can beat a bad team when you play bad, even on the road. It is hard to beat a good team when you play bad, even at home. Texas A&M needs to run the ball well in this game. The next players I have are Cassius Howell and Nick Scorton. Coach Elko named Cassius Howell one of the players of the game. He had a really solid showing against Mississippi State. In this game, Cassius Howell was able to collect 3 tackles. He had a sack. And he was a guy coming in from Bowling Green that we wanted to get after the quarterback. That was the second sack on the season. You would really love to see Cassius Howell get going and be a guy that can help Nick Scorton. Speaking of Nick Scorton, he's another guy that I think needs to play well. And you say, well, Andrew, Le'Veon Moss and Nick Scorton, why they're the ones that need to play well? That's boring. That's a boring answer. Well, once again, you need your players, your great players, your stars to show up when the lights are shining the brightest. Nick Scorton and Cassius Howell are two guys that need to get pressure all game long against Nussmeier. I mean, that's just the reality. Make his life harder. Nussmeier's great. We're going to talk about him and talk about this quarterback battle here in segment 3. He's really good. That's the reality here. Nussmeier is a great quarterback, and it's not going to be easy to slow him down, this passing game down with some of the elite receivers that this LSU offense has. Getting pressure on him will help you do that. And I think that's going to come down to Nick Scorton and Cassius Howell. Coach Elko said that Nick Scorton was a little bit sick heading into in the Mississippi State game, and he was, in and out of the lineup and wasn't feeling 100%. And you'd love to see him get to feeling better and have a bounce back game against, and I wouldn't say bounce back. I mean, it wasn't like he was bad. He was in and out of the lineup. You'd love to see him have a Nick Scorton type of game against LSU, because you need your best players to play well in these kind of games. This game, I mean, we're going to have a show. I believe I'm going to either do it Friday or tomorrow, where we're going to talk about you win, you're in with a college football playoff. And if you win and you're in, you need to win and beat a good football team like LSU. You need to have an all-around great game. LSU is a really good football team. They are. They're a really, really solid football team, and we need to find a way for all of these guys to show up and play well in these significant moments. So Cassius Howell and Nick Scorton in this run game are the players that I am closely monitoring to see how they play against the LSU Tigers. I believe they are the most important positions and players when it comes to getting this huge win over LSU. We're going to run through some quotes from Coach Elko. We're going to talk a little bit about some injury updates for Chase Pasantis and some other players. But I'll tell you this, Coach Elko has made it very clear the importance of this LSU game and made it very clear that slowing Nussmeier is going to be a key to victory in this game. We'll talk more about why coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I got to tell you about our friends over at Roy. Hey, Locked On Aggies fans, it's time to recognize the Roy Player of the Week. So far this season, we've pulled over 20,000 to support players on Roy. Micro deposits lead to massive change with the Roy app. You can direct your support to the athletes you love, ensuring that all funds go to the specific player you choose. Unlike collectives, you know exactly where your support is going, and you even receive exclusive content like personal videos and updates after the season. The best part, it's risk-free. If the athlete transfers or does not deliver the content, you get your money back. This week, I'm supporting Jabri Barber. I just pitched in $100, and I'd love for you to join me. Even $10 makes a difference. Let's show Jabri Barber the love and keep him connected to our school. Remember, pay today, celebrate tomorrow. Your support sets your team up for success. Plus, don't miss out on Roy's exciting giveaway. Win 2 tickets to a game in November. Just download Roy, create an account, and enter code LOCKEDON, and you're entered. Already on Roy, any contributions to an athlete's campaign also get you entered automatically. No purchase necessary, void, or prohibited. Download Roy now and join the NIL game with no subscriptions and no fees. And be sure to check us out on Instagram, Facebook, and X at Roy_return on you for more info. Roy, support the players, change the game. Now we're going to get into what Coach Elko had to say at his press conference on on Monday. And the first thing I want to talk about is what he had to say about Nick Scorton. This is very important. He said that Nick Scorton was sick last week and he went in and out of the game versus Mississippi State because of cramps. He should be good to go. And kind of piggybacking on what we just talked about, in games like these, you need your best players to show up. Texas A&M needs Nick Scorton to have a good game for the Aggies to take down LSU on Saturday. And you need Nick Scorton out there healthy and playing good football. If he's out there and healthy, it's going to help your chances of winning this game. And you'd rather sick than injured. Playing sick in any sport is not fun. It's hard to do. I mean, we saw like Deebo Samuel try to do it on Sunday, and he wasn't feeling well. And I believe now he's even a little bit more sick with pneumonia or something like that. And which best of luck to Deebo. So that's something to monitor. It doesn't sound like this is some kind of injury that could be a long-term thing, but it's still something to monitor. Coach Elko said, I thought there would be more teams playing more meaningful games. When it was a 4-team playoff, you basically went into the season prepared on how you were going to get knocked out of the playoff race and had to keep going. Now that you're in a 12-team playoff, you have 24 or 26 teams that are still alive and fighting to get in. There are more teams that are still alive. There are 8 teams in the SEC, maybe more, that are still alive. And this is a great the reason I love that quote so much is I think it just really it explains how exciting the new college football landscape is now that you have this playoff. College football is more fun now that you have this playoff. I mean, not only is the playoff going to be fun, the playoff itself, but you're right. I mean, it used to be growing up. We all know. I mean, at least during the playoff era. Well, in all honesty, it was even worse actually during the BCS era, because when you were lost a game, you're done pretty much. You have to be 12-0 or 13-0 with the conference championship, or maybe one team would, randomly get in with a loss. But the point is, this makes college football fun for longer. My dad always, when I was growing up, my dad would always say, when you lose, it was just funny. We'd always, okay, we lost, the season's over. We're going to keep watching because it's football on Saturday, but it's over because my dad and I are really big believers in, as Ricky Bobby says, if you ain't first, you're last. But I mean, I just remember growing up, that was the story. It was, okay, if you lose, you're done. If you lose 2 games, once you get that second loss, it's over. And now with college football, you aren't out until you have 3 losses. And even then, you still have an outside small chance of making the playoff. So I love the new landscape of college football. I absolutely love the new landscape of the playoff and how all this works. It's just really, really exciting stuff. It just makes football more fun. You know what I mean? I mean, like, this is exciting. Like, Texas A&M loses to Notre Dame. That hurt. It stunk. But we didn't have to look at that loss and go, well, season's over. We're done. That's not how you had to look at it because of this. And that's really, really exciting. The next quote that I want to talk about here is what Coach Elko had to say about Nussmeier. Garrett Nussmeier can make every throw, and he's a testament to doing things the right way. You see so many kids jumping around, and when you are jumping around, you're not getting better. He's stayed the course. He's really comfortable in the system. He has grown and developed. That's something, too. I really respect players, and it's funny. I'm a young guy who sounds like, a bit of a get off my lawn here. But, I mean, in the transfer portal era, and I get it, transfer portal, you got to go pursue your dreams. You have got to go find the best opportunity for yourself. I mean, in college football nowadays, you can give your family life-changing wealth. There's so many great things. But I really do love and respect when a player sticks around and sticks it out at a school and tries to, I committed here. I want to be successful here. So I respect Nussmeier for that. He's a really good quarterback, and this is going to be a fun quarterback battle between him and Connor Wigman. Talking about Terry Bussey, he says that Terry Bussey is fine. Hopefully we see him out there against LSU, especially knowing LSU is one of the teams that was, pushing after Bussey toward the end of the recruiting. It'd be really great if he could come in and play well. And just so Coach Elko, could poke a little fun at Coach Kelly and say, hey, man, that Bussey kid, that Terry Bussey that you guys missed on, he's pretty good for me. That's always that would be really great. Coach Elko had this to say about the way Wiggs played against Mississippi State. He said he got out of whack with his progression on the other 2 that could have been picked, but I don't think that a piece of football is that not every throw is going to be right. You don't come out of a game without stuff to correct. That's just the reality. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, I saw a lot of comments yesterday about Connor Wigman, and we'll talk more about this in segment 2, but a lot of, I think we got to go with Marcel Reed. And I apologize to y'all. I apologize to Connor Wigman. I was too quick to judge. And I love Marcel Reed. I think he's a great player, and I think his upside's great, and I think he's going to be really good next season if Wiggs moves on to the pros or whatever. But I'm just telling y'all, I think that Connor Wigman is the best quarterback for this football team. I think that, yes, he had a bad game. I mean, anybody that's played sports had a bad game. I rolled over twice in softball yesterday, and it was really frustrating. I did make a diving play. Now, the direct quote from my buddy was, I said, how cool did that diving play looked? And you know what he said to me? He said, you want me to be nice or honest? And I said, well, I guess honest. And he goes, you looked like if a turtle gets stuck on its back. And I said, should have asked for nice. So, but point is, everybody plays bad. You know what I mean? It's going to happen. Connor Wigman had a bad football game. You need him to bounce back. His upside when it comes to the accuracy in the passing game wasn't quite there against Mississippi State, but if it's there against LSU, you're going to win this game. And I think that upside is what makes Connor Wigman the guy you have to stick with at quarterback. Coach Elko had this to say about the defense. We played well on defense and certainly limited the explosive passing game better than some teams have. It was the first time all year that we were bad in the red zone. That stuff matters. Red zone offense and defense. You got to be good in the red zone on both sides of the ball. You want to score 7 when you're in the red zone, and you want to hold them to 3 when they're in the red zone. That is a winning recipe. That is how you win football games. And then I love this quote. This is the one I talked about a little bit earlier. Coach Elko says, we still found a way. That's a testament to the grit of this group. There were some positives to take out of the game, but at some critical moments to take control of the game. We just didn't. We didn't finish the way we wanted to. But that's the thing about it. Every game you play, you learn lessons, you grow, and you become better. And Texas A&M did not play their best football game in any way, shape, or form against Mississippi State. But in a season where you are trying to get in the college football playoff, where you are competing your tail off to try and get in the playoff, the Aggies found a way to get a road win against an SEC team, and that's what matters. That's a real testament to the grittiness of this team, like Coach Elko said. We're going to talk a little bit about the battle between Nussmeier and Connor Wigman coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I got to tell you about our friends over at FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com to get started. So talking a little bit about Garrett Nussmeier, once again, I mean, you talk about solid numbers from Nussmeier. His QBR here on ESPN is 82.7, which according to this is the 10th best in college football. He is looked really good. I mean, listen to these last 5 games throwing the ball. 285 yards against South Carolina, 352 against UCLA, 409 against South Alabama, 337 in the big win over Ole Miss, and 233 yards against Arkansas. He has turned the football over, and that's going to be a key for Texas A&M is see if you can pick off Nussmeier. He does have 6 interceptions on the season, and they have come recently. 2 against South Alabama, which is really interesting. 2 against Ole Miss. 1 against South Carolina. He took care of the ball against Arkansas. But that is a way that you can win this football game is if you turn over Nussmeier. Here comes the classic cliche of the day, which is if you win the turnover battle, you probably win. But it gets even more important in games like this where you're playing a really good football team. I mean, we're getting ready to see you could argue, I mean, number 14 versus number 8 at home in Kyle Field should be rocking. This is going to be one of the most fun games of the season. I'm so excited about it. I can't wait to talk more about, how important this game is when it comes to the playoff picture, how important this game is when it comes to the future of everything. I mean, this game is everything. This is the game that we've been excited about for years and years and years and years. This is your chance to get yourself in this playoff and a historic playoff in that, knowing it is the first 12-team playoff. So, but Nussmeier, he's pushing the ball down the field, ladies and gentlemen. He is pushing the ball down the field. I think that LSU, I tell you this, LSU right now is sitting with this 6-1 record. I think if they have that game back against USC, they win that thing 9 times out of 10. I think that just there were some coaching decisions I disagreed with. Some things just didn't go their way late. LSU, I almost look at them as a 7-0 team. I think that they got some bad luck there, and that's part of football, and that happens. But they're a much better football team than USC, and I think if they play that again, they win. So this is a really good football team Texas A&M's going to play at home. And, when you are playing in a game like this, the most important position on the field is quarterback. We know that. It's no joke. That's no surprise. Quarterback is everything. You have to win the quarterback battle to win a football game like this. I mean, you take a gander at some of these things. I mean, I think that you could argue Miller Moss outplayed Nussmeier in that first game of the season. Nussmeier played really, really good, but I thought Miller Moss played really, really good as well. But I think Miller Moss had him by a hair. Obviously, Riley Leonard outplays Connor Wigman. In big games like this, your quarterback, you have to win the quarterback battle. Now, could Texas A&M win this if Nussmeier outplays Wigman? Now, if it's a wide gap, I'm going to say no. If it's a narrow gap, if Nussmeier just a little bit outplays Wigman, can Texas A&M win this game? I believe they can. But you would love to not have to worry about it and just flat out see Connor Wigman outplay Nussmeier. But he's dealing it, man. He is a good player. Nussmeier is going to be tough for the secondary to stop. He's going to be tough for this defensive line to get pressure on. He's been a really, really good player for LSU this season, and stopping him is going to be mission number one. So we'll get more into this quarterback battle throughout the week. Right now, I probably give a slight edge to LSU with Nussmeier, but it's close. And if you're a Texas A&M fan, you need Connor Wigman to play well for the Aggies to get this massive win and give themselves a great chance of making the college football playoff. That's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Aggies. Thank you all so much for being here every single day. Really, really appreciate y'all. If you haven't already hit that subscribe button, it helps the show a ton on YouTube. If you're listening on a podcast platform, leave 5 stars, subscribe there as well. Also helps the show. Appreciate y'all. We have a fun show, a handful of shows coming the rest of the week. So we'll see you right here tomorrow on Locked On Aggies.